Welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Real 100%, where we are here with Miss Latrice and Miss
Leticia.
Latrice. I'm my tongue tied. I'm sorry. That's not my fault. I'm sorry. Um, Welcome to our conversation today. Basically, our conversations, this podcast is based off of allowing people to know that they're not alone in the things that they go through, to know that there's a community out there that are willing to help one another, So, again, like I said, I usually open up with the icebreaker. So my icebreaker for you will be, since we are in the holidays, what is your best part about the holidays?
So I am not in the States. I'm actually in Portugal. And I
Ooh,
don't actually celebrate Thanksgiving. However, I used to live in the States. It was my very favorite week. Like this week, the lead up to it is my
right.
favorite. And I would say from those days, my favorite part was eating all the good
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
food.
I'm waiting on the meals. I'm like, Mom, you cooking yet? Like, what we doing? Like, I haven't been eating all week long. I'm waiting, just waiting. So, but yeah,
Mhm.
I love it. I definitely, I love Thanksgiving. I'm not really a holidays fan either, really too much. I'm just grateful every day, pretty much. I find things to be
Mhm.
thankful for every single day. And as far as like Christmas, I can give you a gift any time of the day, so it doesn't really have to be that way. But it's definitely, I'm definitely grateful that you are here with us today. You can go ahead and start by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am an empowerment coach and I am moving into advocacy for domestic violence survivors. I was a survivor at the age of 21. And I, you know, entered into a relationship very early in life. And one of the biggest things that I like speaking about is almost the forced silence that
Mhm.
victims experience because there isn't enough empathy for
Right.
victims. And there isn't enough safe spaces for people to open up to what is going on in their life. So and that's very important for me to just bring awareness, get people to think differently
Mhm.
about how they handle victims,
Mhm.
because oftentimes victims don't get help simply
Right.
because of how they're judged.
Yes. I could definitely I can relate to that. As far as not being able to open up, because again, there's a lot of spaces that are not safe, and then you know there's spaces that just people who just want the money that comes out of it. They're not like really passionate about really and truly helping the person that is in need. So like when you went through your process or whatever you're willing to share, how did you get through it? Like, what was your mind, and how did it lead up to those things?
So I entered into the relationship that I was in at 14. I was running away from parental neglect. I
Mm,
wanted someone to see me, right? Which I think allowed me to be vulnerable to this man who at the time was twice my age. So when I started in the relationship with him, he was 28.
okay.
Um, I was controlled from early, but I couldn't see it because to me, it was this guy showing me attention,
Yeah.
everything that I want that I'm not getting. Um, I thought that was love. And I end up marrying him, even though the relationship was abusive and I was aware of the abuse. Like the very first time he put his hands on me, I left. I broke up with him and I left.
Okay.
Um, but I ended back up in that relationship with him because of what was going on in my household. That
Okay.
was my escape. As bad as it was,
Right.
that was my escape. And when I was 21, after being married for 2 years, he stabbed me one night. And I think that was the realization that I really was in a dangerous situation. I was really in a dangerous situation. And being aware that if someone truly loves me,
Mm-hmm.
they aren't picking up a knife.
Right.
You know, they're not going to threaten my life in that manner.
Right.
Um, and I laughed, I went back, I laughed, I went back. But I think always knowing the fact that this man who claims to
Mm-hmm.
love me essentially tried to kill me was what allowed me to exit that relationship. When I told him I wanted a divorce,
Mm-hmm.
that's when things got really dangerous because I think at that point he realized that he lost control. He
Right.
stalked me. I had to get a restraining order. And
Yeah.
I, in a very naive way,
Mm-hmm.
thought that by leaving, it will all be over,
Right.
you know? But it took me 10 years to rebuild my life. Um, and those 10 years was 10 years of heartache and heartbreak because I ended up in very similar relationships. I wasn't being controlled, but
Mm-hmm.
there was still some level of abuse there because
Right.
I didn't know who I was. So I
Right.
tolerated a lot, you
Right.
know, um, and because I didn't have safe spaces
Mm-hmm.
to share with people what was really going on, I just lived in shame. You know, I ended up in a relationship with an addict who was married. I didn't know. I was with this guy for 3 years,
Wow.
living with him.
Oh wow.
Um, and I couldn't escape because I just left this almost 8 year relationship that was horrible. And
Right.
now I'm right back in another horrible relationship. I didn't have anyone to go to and share my experiences with. So I had to navigate that alone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it wasn't until I end up getting arrested on my job because of something one of my boyfriends had did
Mm-hmm.
that I realized I'm responsible and not in a way that like makes me a bad person, but everything that had led up to that day was as a result of the decisions that I made.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And before that, like I would happily say I'm a victim. You know,
Right. Right.
I've been through this.
Right.
But it was this reality that you made a decision that got you where you are today.
Right.
And all of your life, you've made decisions. And it wasn't until I was able to take ownership
Mm.
for my part.
Right.
Like, I wasn't responsible for the abuse,
Right.
I wasn't responsible for the manipulation,
Right.
but I didn't know myself enough
Mm-hmm.
to know what I wanted. And that was my responsibility.
Wow. Wow. That's I've never heard that in that way before. I've always, you know how people always say, well, it's not your fault, it's not your fault, it's not your fault. And they take that, which is right. It's not your fault. But at the same time, like you said, you know, the decisions that you made as a young person, not knowing who you were, your true identity, you know, you ran away from it before you can even find out what it was. And you know, swept under somebody that you know, of course, you know, thought loved you. So it's like you didn't really have time to really even like get molded to where who you really were. So you was created into something, into a abused victim. And like and that says a lot to where you said, um, you took responsibility of your part. You know, I did this. I ran away. I didn't want to be a part of this toxic, you know, thing that was going on here. So I just ran away and just found something, you know, and then whatever they did added to the stuff that I already did. So I've never really heard it like that, which makes total sense. So like when you were going through all those relationships and stuff like that, like what did you do? Like how did you start realizing that you really needed to, you know, get away and start something fresh?
I think all of these situations that I have found myself in, I always, in the back of my mind, felt like I shouldn't have been in them.
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you know, but I think when you don't know yourself, you settle for what you don't deserve, right?
Right.
So I think, like, I always had like this is not my forever person, or I'm just in this to get out of something else.
Right.
And I think once I made that realization, it was about me spending time getting to know who I was, what my values were, what I actually wanted out of life, right?
Right.
And I'm always like, I'm an alpha female, right? I'm a person that always takes control.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that it was that realization that by being a victim, I'm actually giving away my control, right? Like, I'm resigning myself to the fact that life is happening to me and I'm not happening to life. And for me, that didn't sit right. I want to
Right.
be in control of my life. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Right.
for me, it was just really just spending time getting to know me, and in that process, getting to know what I didn't want.
So what
And
did
then
that?
being able to set boundaries so
Right.
that I didn't find myself back in those situations.
Right. Right. Mixed. Exactly. So like, what did that look like when started to set those boundaries and get to know you? Like, how did you even, how with an onion you gotta peel off all of the layers and you're gonna cry every layer. So like, what did it look like for you to have to go through all of those layers to get back to the real you, to learn who you were, the values that you had, the things you like, dislike, get to know you all over again, that 14-year-old girl before she left home, pretty much.
Ah, you know, painful. I mean, I there is this level of honesty that you need to give yourself.
Right.
And that was something I had to learn to do. Like, uh, every day in life, we lie to ourselves. And I don't think sometimes we realize that. And I just had to stop lying to myself. I had to challenge myself. I had to commit to myself. There were things that I wanted to do in my marriage. Like, I wanted to go off to college. I wanted to do this. And this man is telling me that I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have to commit to my own dreams. And in doing that, I had to challenge myself to not give up, to keep going, to put myself first, which is something that I had to learn how to do.
Yes.
Right. Um, so I think that process was a lot of learning and unlearning, um, and brutal honesty. I don't know if you're in business, but I am. And one of the things that we hear as business owners is that in order for someone to buy from you, you got to
Right.
get to know, like, and trust yourself.
Yeah.
They need to get to know, like, and trust you.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with being able to take control of your life. The very first thing is I had to get to know myself. I had
Mm-hmm.
to get to love and accept myself with all my flaws and all of the bad decisions that I've made. And I
Right.
had to get to learn to trust my decisions again, right?
Right.
That was very important for me. And then once I got to that point, it was that commitment to not waver from that. If this is not going in the direction that I want to go in,
Right. Right.
what's the point? What's the point of going
Wasting another day.
south on I-95 when you know you gotta head north? It's a waste of
Right.
time, right?
Yes.
So,
Right.
and that was that realization. If I'm truly in control of my life, I can't stop. I can't allow people to make me a sideshow in my own story.
Right. Right. Wow. That says a lot. So like, when you were going through the journey, because for me, like, when I go through, usually going through a lot, I usually journalize. So like, whenever you were going through it and getting to the process of changing your mind, changing your mindset, changing your heart, changing everything about you, or taking back control of things that were yours. Like, how did you get through the process? Did you go to therapy? Like, you got had a good support group, or like, how did that process go?
I started my very first like work on myself was as a result of Eoin Levenzent's books, right? I had been introduced to the value of the valley very early on in my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And then right around the time that I really realized that I needed to make a shift,
Mm-hmm.
this was like 2010, she had released Peace from Broken Pieces. And
Mm-hmm.
I read that. And then I went back and she has a lot of her books have like companions and journals and workbooks, right? So I started working through that. But then I also worked with a coach. And I think like having that accountability to myself was important.
Yes.
Having somebody to hold up a mirror to me was important
Yes.
too, right? Like to get me to stop telling myself lies and
Mm-hmm.
believing them,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Um, those were the two major things for me that really helped me move forward. And it motivated me because, like, I'm not going into a coaching call every week and telling you I haven't done what I told you I was
Right.
going to do, right? So
Right.
for me, those things really helped move me forward.
Wow, that's amazing. That's definitely amazing. I used to watch Hayana all the time when she would take people through and make them really realize what they really was looking at. Like it definitely. I know it helped a lot of people as well.
Hmm.
So like so now that you are, so you said it was 2010, if I'm not mistaken. No, so like within the last 13 years, like where like I guess like where do you feel like you are now? Do you feel like you're still in the in the peeling state, or do you feel like have you overcome different things? And how did you get there?
So you know what? I don't believe that healing is a destination, right? I believe it's an ever evolving journey.
Yes.
I've grown since 2010. I've changed since 2010. And a
Mhm.
huge part of my process still is making sure that I know who I am today. Because
Yes.
I'm different from what I was yesterday. My experience yesterday changed me,
Right.
right? So
Right.
it's being able to stay present with who I am and making sure that I'm aligned with what I want. I don't have time to waste anymore.
Right.
So
Yes.
it's really making sure that I'm intentional, that I'm showing up in a way that I can be proud of. And now I have children. I'm married. My children motivate me a lot.
Mhm.
Number one, because I don't even want them to walk an inch in my shoes,
Yes.
right? But then also, I have to be conscious that I'm showing up in a way
Yes.
that they can emulate and I'm proud of it,
Hmm.
right?
Makes sense.
Because whether we like it or not, we become our parents unless we change that
Yes.
cycle.
Yes.
And I had to see at some point where I was like my mama, where I was like my daddy, what I didn't like,
Right.
so that I can change it and be a better parent, you know?
Right.
Um, so it's just being intentional
Hmm.
every day to be better than yesterday and to stay true to myself, no
Right.
matter how hard that gets. Because in this society, nobody wants you to be real,
Right.
right? Nobody wants you to
Right.
be yourself.
Yes.
Everybody wants you to be this carbon copy of something else. And it
Yes.
takes a lot of courage to
Yes.
step out and be authentic in this
Yes.
filtered world
Yes.
of nonsense,
Yeah. Of fakeness.
non-reality,
It's
right?
fake for sure. Because I was telling somebody earlier, it's like I'm not one that's gonna be like on social media one way with a bunch of masks on, and then turn around and try to be something else. Like that's a lot of work. That's just too much.
Hmm.
That's a lot of energy. So, so back to what you said. I remember. I wanted to ask earlier, but when you say sometimes we turn into our parents, which we do. Lord knows. I hear my mom sometimes come out my mouth, but so the things that you went through, like for the reason why you ran into the situations that you ran in, was it like a um I guess the way you ran away because of toxic being at home, and then so as a little girl, that affected you to go back and go find the same relationships like you abused and all that stuff. Did you see that at home, and that's all you saw, and that's what how you got comfortable in it?
No, so I came from years very loving environment. My
Okay.
parents split up, and both of them married people that didn't want anything to do with me. So they created these
Yes.
family units, and
Hmm.
I was in between. No, I didn't have a space.
Right.
Um, that there was a lot of emotional neglect. My
Okay.
parents didn't see how much I needed them, right? And one of the things that really added to me feeling unwanted was when I was 7, my daddy told me that the reason they got a divorce was because of me, right?
For being
That is a very heavy weight to carry as a child when you don't
yeah,
understand it.
right.
And so for me, that's what it was. And when I look at the relationships, particularly the toxic ones that I've been
Right.
in,
Right.
it was my daddy. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I was gravitated to these men that were very much like my daddy, even though he wasn't abusive.
Right.
It was that lack of emotional connection, you
Right.
know. And I think this is important to talk about because as parents raising children,
Hmm.
it is very important that we keep in touch with what's going on with our children, right?
Yeah.
The fact that neither one of my parents saw how much I needed their attention
Hmm.
made me very vulnerable to the world because anybody could have came in and told me something that I wanted to hear,
Yes.
and I would have been Play-Doh in their hands.
Right.
And
Right.
that was simply because I wasn't seen by my parents,
Right.
you know?
And you felt
And
like
I don't at this stage I don't blame them. I have a great relationship with my mother. I don't have a relationship with my father at all.
mm,
But it's and then the only reason why I have that great relationship with my mother is because she took ownership. Um,
love it.
we owe our children that because they didn't ask to be here. You know
Right.
what I mean? And being able to have a mature conversation
Hmm.
at 30 something with my mama and just letting her know
Right.
how her actions impacted me and her simply saying sorry
Yes.
was good enough for me to move on, right?
Yes. I like that. I like that because for you to be able to, I know I'm a believer. That's just me, straight across the board. For that connection to come back full circle. For your mom to come back and even say like it's hard for people to say I'm sorry, like especially in I know in our culture it's hard for us to say sorry because we don't want to be that one we were wrong or you know just I don't know. It's just hard for us to say sorry. So I definitely understand that part, and I'm grateful that you do have that relationship with your mom because I know it does help you with how to conversate with your own children, because the things that we go through, trickles into our youth as well. I know back then people didn't really talk about a whole lot of stuff, and then our parents they couldn't talk to their parents because they were going through stuff like it was like a generational
Mm-hmm.
issue that was going on and it affected us now, and then if it's not fixed by now then it's going to affect our next generation. So um I'm really really glad, I'm definitely really really glad to hear that part. So now that you are you know every day evolving, every day growing, every day doing better, like what are you doing now that helps more and helps the next generation or next person that's next to you?
So I read from this story. Obviously, it's a dated story. It's been 20 years
Hmm.
since I was stabbed. I ran from it for a very long time. And I think it was because I had to process. And then there was a lot of shame and a lot of guilt and a lot of embarrassment. Like, who wants to admit that they were in an abusive relationship for
Right.
that length of period of time?
Right.
And then you made increasingly bad choices after that, right?
Right.
But now I realize that I'm a firm believer that the things that happen to us is not for us, it's for someone else.
Yeah.
So for me, I've just finished writing my memoir. I'm looking to get that published.
Absolutely.
And I'm moving into advocacy, particularly
Right.
around young girls, right? I think there is this illusion that an older man loves you. There
Right.
is this illusion that there's something better out there. And
Yes.
it, like, for me, it's like, enjoy your childhood. You have plenty of time to grow and mature. And I just want to be the advocate for those who don't have the courage to speak, right? Because this is going through domestic violence. It's a very silent, isolating
Yes.
place.
Yes.
And I'm strong enough to be that voice for people who don't want to speak up. And like, I want to bring this to the forefront because it's very current, right?
Right.
When
Right.
Cass's lawsuit first came to the news,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the narratives were, she's lying.
Right.
She just wants money.
Right.
It takes a lot. It took me 20 years to tell somebody what I went through. It takes a lot for someone who has been under that level of abuse to
Right.
speak up and advocate for themselves. And
Right.
the reason why a lot of us don't is
Mhm.
because we aren't believed, we are blamed, we are ridiculed,
Yes.
and it's not cool.
Right.
Like, as women, especially, we need to support each other
Yes.
because it's hard out here if you're
Yes.
alone.
Yes.
So for me, that's my main focus in this moment, just building advocacy around the damaging effects of um, victim judgment,
Mm-hmm.
and then the damaging effects of not creating safe spaces for people who do speak up.
Wow. I have said that for many years that our story was not meant for just us. It's meant to help others, that really do need it. And like I said earlier, I know God knew us like way before we were born. He knew the steps that we were going to take. He knew the mistakes we were going to make and everything. And He created us now that we're strong enough, like you said, strong enough to actually be bold in in our voices to speak for other people that cannot speak or afraid to speak, anyway, and then help them walk. Well, because we gotta walk, we gotta crawl before we walk. So if we gotta help them crawl, let's help you crawl. So we can get your legs strong enough to stand, and then once you stand, we finna go full sprint.
Mhm.
We finna help your voice, get louder and louder and louder, so that your your emotions won't take over you, your fear won't take over your life, so that you can overcome it, because that's what I feel like we all are leading up to anyway, is to be overcomers of a whole lot of things in life. But if
Mhm.
we do have that opportunity to have a safe space, that opportunity to be able to open up to someone and say, be naked before them, to tell us the real story, the real them, because we are real people with real problems who need real solutions, and not this fake stuff, not these people that who just want money, not you be medicated up, just so we can suppress all the feelings, but we really do need a sense of freedom. So
Mhm.
that speaks volumes when now that you want to be an advocate for those who cannot speak, because it's a lot of them out. It's a lot of people out there.
1 in 4 women experience domestic violence,
Right, right.
and most of them are silent.
Yes, silence. And I feel like most of it, it's shame, like you said, shame, fear, and not being able to find that safe space, because we have been judged, we have been put down, we've been put down for years. Why would we want to come to other people that think there's a safe space and get put down again and get just stripped a whole nother layer of our voice all over again? That's like, why
Mhm.
would you want to do that? But to know that someone is out there advocating for our youth and even us older people, there's people, our age and still silent, after years and years of, being abused. So just to know that you're out there and other people that are connected to you and with you, building this community is definitely a blessing to hear. Definitely a blessing to hear. So, like, what are your next steps after? What are your steps to? I know you're writing a book. You're memoir, right? How long, like when you started writing the book, was it hard, or was it like
Oh, yes. It was the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. And I've given birth. It was hard.
four
Okay.
times?
And I started writing it 2 years ago. And then fear crept in, right? I spent a lot of time protecting my ex husband. I spent a lot of time protecting my daddy and my parents.
Right.
And it was this realization, wait a minute, this is my story.
Yes.
And I have a right to tell it.
Yes.
So yeah, it took 2 years. I literally finished the book.
Wow.
And it's only because I'm shopping around for a book deal and an agent wanted to see it. I was like, I have to finish it now. I literally finished it last week. Um, After 2 years of writing and pausing and second guessing myself. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you because I literally just finished mine last week too. So I'm with you on that. It didn't take me 2 years; it took me about 10. Only because again that shame and that fear, of what people will think about me when they read it, because you're gonna know who I am vulnerably when you read it. And then when you read it, don't be surprised if you see your scenario in there as well, on how you affected me, because I don't, there's no point of sugarcoating this. I always been sugarcoated enough. Let me just be real. Let me be free. And as I was writing the book last week, typing it up, I was so anxious to get it done. Like you, like, I need to get this done. I've been dragging my feet this long. But I had this sense of peace. I had the sense of freedom. Like this is not a chain around my neck anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's not, not locked up anymore in my fear and my own thoughts, because it's on because I'm the loudest person in my head. You know what I mean? So I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I'm glad it only took you 2 years though. 'Cause it took me 10. You know what I mean? But we're here now. We're here
Hmm.
now, and now we just gotta, just put it out there and just let it be. And then also again advocate. Speak up. Stand firm on, be confident in who you are and whose you are, because your past is not who you are anymore. You know what I'm saying? The people that had control over you is not you anymore. You like
Hmm.
you don't even you don't even phase me no more. Like I'm good. Like you made me who I am. You made me a strong black woman. Okay, That's what you helped me to realize what I really was. So I'm excited. I'm floored. I'm excited, and you gotta let me know when the book comes out, when everything comes to play, because I'm definitely gonna support it. I'm definitely gonna boost it. So
I appreciate that.
absolutely. So like, what? So do you have any, like, last words of encouragement to for that person who's out there who is going through the same thing you went through or similar? What what advice can you give them to become as strong as you or better?
I think it's just important to prioritize getting to know you. And I think once those pieces fall into place, other things will fall apart because you then become committed to who you are as a person as opposed to needing validation from someone else. And I think if you can make that first step of really committing to knowing who you are without a shadow of a doubt, I think that's your first step in moving away from the things that you don't deserve.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And then to the one who have tried before and feel like they failed more than one time, and they feel like, this is just what this is for my life. There's nothing else I can do. Like, what would you tell that person?
So life has a really funny way of making sure you learn a lesson.
Definitely.
And I always say that if at first you don't learn, you will
Yes.
be taught over and over again. So if
Yes.
you are finding yourself in repetitive situations, you need to step back for a second and
Mm-hmm.
ask yourself, what is the lesson here? And learn it. Because if
Exactly.
not, that's gonna be your life, girl, until you get it.
That's just so true.
And it's all on you, right? Like,
Yes.
as much as we want other people to support us and be there for us, we are responsible for us.
Yes.
And no one's going to want more for your life than
Yes.
you do.
Yes. Agreed.
So
Agreed.
don't leave it in anybody else's hands. Take
Agreed.
control,
Yes.
take ownership.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Are there any like resources that you may have that you would like to share, so that they can, either reach you, or, if they need help or anything like that? Do you have any?
I don't have any resources at this time because I'm still I'm building this new brand, right? I have another business. So when it's available, the best way to connect with me is on Facebook,
Mhm.
and you'll see it drop when it's ready.
When it's ready. Definitely, I'm definitely gonna follow, so I can stay, stay in the loop, because I want to be able to help you advocate for those who are the unspeakable, the ones that don't have a voice,
Mhm.
as well. So I'm here for you, and this is, like I say all the time, for me. I can tell when I have a lifetime friend. Just saying.
Much
you know, I'm
appreciated.
definitely,
Yes.
I'm
It's all
definitely.
about sisterhood.
Yes,
I
yes,
just think, we spend too much time alone. We need to lean on the resources that are available.
yes.
You know?
Yes, and I always tell myself I've been in the box way too long. It's time to branch out, time to move around, time to start to connect with real people.
Mhm.
So that we all can build this community together. Because the stronger we
Mhm.
are, the better. The more we can overcome. So I'm definitely with that. So, like I said before, I once everything is sent off, I will definitely be linking you in so that you can, share, do, and also advocate the more with this. So I'm
Mhm.
definitely grateful, and I really appreciate you taking out the time to come and conversate with me. And I definitely enjoyed it, and I learned so much for sure. And I hope that you truly have a great, I would say you don't do holidays, but you have a great rest of the week.
Thank you. You enjoy every bit of food you put in your mouth this week, and
I
think of me as you eat.
I am. I'm trying not to do too much, but I'm just saying it's only twice a year, so I mean, what can you do? I don't know, but I definitely, again, appreciate your time, and definitely, we will be definitely staying in touch for sure.
Okay.
I,
Thank you.
yes, have a good day.
You too.
All right, bye bye.
Bye.